All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
That's right. We're back. It is week 4 of NFL, and we're ready for our first look. And you're probably thinking, hey, where's Tambo? Well, I got to tell you, it's the week of the President's Cup, and me and Hoop just decided it's got to be Team USA up in here. So we kicked Tambo off the show because we are diehards for Team USA this week. We cannot have any Canadians on here spoiling our vibe. All right, so that's how it's going to be. We are here to break down what is the week 4 slate. You know what's going on, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm here with Hoop. I don't ever get to do shows with Hoop. Am I excited? Yes, I am. Here we go. How you doing, Hoop?
Yeah, very excited to be here. Yeah, I mean, the Tambo team, what is it? The international team that is called. Like, yeah, get the hell out of here for the week. Go root on your boys. You can come back next week and rejoin the SHIPIT crew. So he's going to be out for a little while. We'll welcome him back with open arms. And, yeah, it's excited to be here, obviously, talking through the slate with you. It's the beauty of DFS. You know, the games finished last night for week 3. And right back to work Tuesday morning / afternoon, breaking down week 4. Never stops.
That's got to be. It's that NFL grind. By the way, could you imagine being Tambo and having your success connected to Taylor Pendrith? Like, what a shitty time to be alive when you have your success connected to Taylor fucking Pendrith.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, doing golf shows, I don't know if it's because of working so closely with Tambo over the years on PGA stuff, but like some of my favorite PGA DFS guys just happen to be Canadian. So I feel like I am playing these guys and being excited about him more than Tambo's ass is. But he's going to be rooting for him hard this week. I know he's excited about this trip, and hopefully he has some fun up there.
All right, for all you olds, we are pushing to get to 10,000. Hold on, let me go over to this other screen now. We are pushing to get to 10,000 members, right? Or 10,000 subs on YouTube. And I bet a lot of you think that you're subscribed because our videos always pop up on your YouTube and you're recommended. So you're like, I'm subscribed, but you're an old. Okay. And what you don't realize is it's just you're liking all the videos, so it automatically puts it there. But what you need to do is look below this video right here and does it say subscribe or subscribed? Because so many people, myself included, think they're subscribed to a channel and they're not. So just make sure you're actually subscribed from the channel you're watching, and that'll help us get to 10,000 real quick. Because I see the numbers based on the number of people that watch our videos. We should be well over 10,000. So quit being an old and go sub, you donkey dicks. All right. Plus, we got a great graphic. You can thank the editor for that. All right, quick rundown. Here's our winner from last week's Listener League. If you don't know, we have our own rake-free Listener League, which has grown for 3 consecutive weeks. I'll sell it more here in a second, but you need to be in that. It's a $5 5 max with a great flat payout structure. Most importantly, no rake. This week's winner was Ellie's daddy. If you can see this lineup here, I don't know if you can see that, Hoop, but this guy went with the Darnold Jefferson skinny stack with a run back with Nico Collins. I got to tell you, I was watching that game and I really needed a Nico Collins touchdown. And I shit you not, in garbage time, they threw to him 4 straight times in the end zone. And that motherfucker couldn't catch one of them.
Yeah, super tilting. But I mean, this team overall, a well-built team. The one thing you see people that win different tournaments, then there's critiques of the lineup the next day. Oh, well, he did this wrong. He did that wrong. Like, fuck that. Like, he won the money. He's excited. Like, who gives a shit? This happens to be a very, very well correlated lineup. He had the Darnold with Jefferson and ran it back with Nico Collins. And he had Aaron Jones in that game as well. Minnesota, obviously, I'd say the
realize that, yeah.
Yeah. So he had the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. So captured basically the entire offense. Had Nico Collins. Nico Collins was, I guess, really essentially the only bust on this team. Then he has secondary stack with Derrick Henry and Ferguson in there. And then obviously needed Juwan Jennings, who dropped a 50 burger out of nowhere. So, yeah, it's a well-built team. Congratulations on the win.
And he's flying the Ship It Nation logo, which we always like to see.
Yes.
I said last week on the show, I said to Tambo, I was like, I think the Vikings might actually be like good, like actually good. And I think we're really starting to see that they are like actually good. I don't think you accidentally beat the Texans by 27. So congratulations to him. But the real news of last week in this tournament. Oh, yeah, I need to get comments up over here. I don't even have those.
I'll pull that one up.
Because, you can pull. Okay, cool. You can pull them up. You do it.
Yeah, I just had hoop rep in the Tigers gear. It's been a while since you can proudly wear something like this. So I mean, now in the playoff spot, big week for my Tigers. So I did have to dust off the gear, and I realized when I went to dust off the gear, it's like, man, the Tiger shit I have is so freaking old. Like the clothing was starting to wear on it. So had to upgrade it. You got the new hat, got the new shirt, and it's far and few between. It's been a long time since you could probably wear some Tigers gear. So I'm
you had that Ty Cobb Tiger gear, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I had the old stuff, man. I mean, the material was like very thin, wearing through. And then I do have to apologize. I can't remember the guy's name, but I absolutely shit on his Minnesota Vikings week 1. He said something about if the Vikings and the Lions meet up in the playoffs, we go to a game together. I was like, well, pretty good chance my Lions get to the playoffs, but your Vikings not so likely. But man, they've looked really, really good. And like you said, I think they might just be good.
Yeah, I think you forgot that Sam Darnold, generational talent. That's the only way to look at it, right?
Seriously, I mean, I kind of talked about it week 1. I can't remember who they were playing. I was like, I think Sam Darnold's good enough to move the football down the field and get the ball to Jefferson. And man, he's been better than that. That.
And when you're looking at NFL scoring so far this year, like the Vikings have an elite offense compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
The scoring is garbage this year.
Yep. No, it's been low, been down.
So in the listener league, the True, which by the way is named the Big Guy. I'm going to give you a clue. Is named after the Big Guy, which is me. And it's not about the money. It's about winning a tournament named after you. Big Guy got second. Heartbreaking. You hate to see it. I was making a big run there, but the guy, we both had Jennings, so I was never going to catch him whenever, he was cock blocking me with our guy that was just going 8 bananas. But you know what? Second place out of 2,000 people. We'll take a 99.99% result. So, congratulations to me.
Absolutely.
The tournament this week, 2,500 people. I don't know how Tambo keeps getting this thing bigger every week, but the man has magical powers. Let's just appreciate it. A 2,500 entries. Then now we're up to, what is that? $12,500 in the prize pool. And it is rake free with a great flat payout structure. If you're not in this, just tell me, right? You don't even need to tell me because I know you hate good contests. This is as good as it gets. Let's get it all filled up. He was trying to get it filled up by Wednesday last week. Let's aim for Wednesday again this week. If not, definitely Thursday. Get in there, get it made, because I had all kinds of people Friday and Saturday being like, hey, man, where's that contest? Dude, it's full. You got to get your ass in there. They have a little reserve spot on there for a reason. So get your ass in there and reserve it. Hoop, you got anything on this tournament before we get to the slate?
I always say it, a tournament like this should be the first contest that you enter each week. I mean, I understand the big prize pools over on DraftKings, the $1 million the first and all that stuff's appealing. Yeah, you can play in those as well. But man, like rake free, you don't get that shit nowadays. This is the first click, should be the first click for the week. And I got a lot of messages too. I mean, this thing's filling up like, oh, I missed it. I was like, well, make sure you get your ass in a little earlier next week. That's all I can say.
Amen to that. And just for a quick educational lesson, because clearly my guy Nick doesn't know this. My beard is getting a little thick right now, but that's not a neck beard. A neck beard is what Patrick Cantlay has. That's where you can't fill in the sides here, and it only grows on the bottom. That's a neck beard, right? Or you could just have no personality, be a neck beard. What Nick is. Oh, shots fired. He's my friend. Don't worry, guys. All right. Let's see. Let's get to this. Let's get to this slate. I'm gonna assume there's like no over-unders, like over 45, because the scoring in the NFL, there's something going on. I don't know if they've made too many rule changes, their way they're calling it, but something after 3 weeks, it's a fucking trend. Scoring is down at a very noticeable level across the NFL. And it's really changing how I think about fantasy football, because you're just not seeing as many guys go nuke or as many games go nuke as we've seen in the past.
Yeah. And then, of course, last night, everyone's kind of talking about that Sunday, the end of the game Sunday. And then yesterday, 3 of the 4 teams just absolutely go off and just score an endless amount of points.
Did you see that Bengals Commanders game was the first game where there was no interceptions and no punts since 1940?
Yeah.
That's what an incredible statistic.
Yeah. So maybe now we're trending to normal football going into this week. I don't know.
I pray.
Yeah, same. I'm very confused by it. I know a lot of people, the smart people were saying it's because a lot of teams are playing the 2 safeties. I don't know if there's legitimacy to that. I know a lot of people kind of have the theory that none of these guys play in the preseason anymore. So the first few weeks are kind of like preseason, getting things going. Again, I'm hoping that's the case, right?
Damn,
Fingers
dude.
crossed. Let's get some real football back.
I do not turn in Sunday to watch fucking defensive slugfest. What was that game? I had so many players in the Eagles Saints game,
Saints,
and it was 3-0 in the fourth quarter at one point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I think that was the time, right around the time Devontae's life ended. That big old boy just came and roasted him.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
And then you get all these people like, oh, I love defensive battles. This is so great. Like, no, it's not even what it is. It's just like shitty offense, not defensive
bad to watch.
battle. Yeah, hopefully it changes though. And last night relatively promising. Besides the Jaguars, of course, who absolutely suck.
While we're on the bitching train, why don't we just go ahead and talk about, like, this week, there's 12 games on the main slate this week, and there's 8 early, 4 late. And we were just talking before we went on the air about how there's 12 games last week, and they went 7 early, 5 late. And we're talking about how nice that was to have more games, a more balanced amount of games in the early part of the day and the later part of the day. Why can't they just do that all the time? Do a 7-5, 6-6, and don't give me that West Coast bullshit. It's all the same. I just don't see any reason to not do it, because when there's 9 or 10 games on at noon, it's hard to keep up with them. I can't even get them up on all my split screens, and I got like 3 TVs up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm surprised the NFL hasn't spread out the schedule like even more, like more Friday games, or obviously they don't want to compete with college football on Saturdays, but you saw the 2 Monday night games. Like if the NFL is on TV, it doesn't matter which teams are playing. People are going to watch. If it's a primetime game, if it's an island game, they're going to watch. So the fact that they still cluster all these games on Sunday, relatively surprising to me, but who knows? But we're starting to see a little more of it. Obviously, we have 2 Monday night games this week as well. So maybe we'll see more of it being spread out.
I do like the 2 games more than 1 game for I'm not a single game showdown guy. I just don't enjoy it that much, but 2 games, I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, I love the 3 game slates on Thanksgiving. I think it's like the perfect slate.
Yep.
All right, we'll get going now. Saints and the Falcons. First thought, I also, last week when I said I think the Vikings are good, I also said I think the Saints may be actually good. Now I'm starting to think maybe not so much. I think they did not look great last week. First things first, what do you think about the Saints versus Falcons game? It is in a dome, which I like. There are enough explosive players on each side for this to be a kind of a game that could be surprising, like maybe one of those 28-24 games with a bunch of offense. Is there anybody you're early feeling in this game?
Yeah, so just to your initial point about thinking the Saints I was in the same boat, but then it's like after last week, like the NFL this year, it seems like even more so than in previous years, it is so week to week. Like as soon as you think you know something, you realize, man, I have no fucking clue. Like who's good, who's bad. I mean, there's so many upsets. Like the Bucs after they beat my Lions in week 2, I was like, man, this is a legit team. And then they get their ass kicked at home against the Broncos. It's just so week to week. It's wild to follow. But in this game, I'd say a lot of individual pieces that are interesting. I don't know if I want to go overboard and really stack this up, but both running backs are clearly in play, Kamara and Robinson. You have wide receivers on both sides. Olave, I think, is a fine play. Shaheed, fine, definitely going back to him. Drake London starting to get a lot of attention. Can always play Kyle Pitts. So I think like all these guys are individually good plays. I just have trouble with Falcons games, like really getting in there and saying, I want 2 pieces on this side, 2 on the other side. It's just, to me, it's all individual pieces. In terms of the quarterbacks, definitely not going to be on Cousins. I played a lot of Carr last week. That obviously didn't work out. I could potentially go back to him, but I think I'm just more interested in the individual skill position guys, the running backs and the wide receivers here, and then maybe a little Pitts.
Let me ask you a DFS strategy question. Is there ever a time you would build a lineup that would have both Kamara and old Dijon Robinson in it? Because you're spending so much salary against 2 running backs who are playing each other, and you need like a 1% outcome. Is that something you're ever really chasing there? Is that just too much money to spend on 2 running backs in the same game?
I guess the one thing I wouldn't actively not do it, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, am I going to go in there and actively build Kamara Robinson teams? No, but I'm not going to not allow it if I'm building like 150, I guess. So if I'm hand building, like I'm never going to get there. But if in my 150, if I play a really cheap stack, let's say a cheap quarterback, cheap wide receiver, cheap tight end, whatever it may be, and then I do have the money at running back position, I think these 2 running backs could definitely get the job done in the same sort of game. So am I actively doing it? No. Am I actively not doing it? No, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like maybe the optimizer builds it for you and you don't mind it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then just something I noticed at tight end, I really thought last week might be a chance for Juwan Johnson for the Saints to kind of have a coming out party. It just ain't happening, Bob. Like the island of Foster Moreau is getting more love than that guy is. So
tough situation with like him, Moreau, whatever the hell they want to do with Taysom. It's tough to figure out.
I will say, though, if Taysom's going to be out, it does make Derek Carr more appealing because it takes his chances of getting those touchdowns down inside the 10 vultured from him a lot less likely. So that's something to keep an eye on. Like I never play Derek Carr stacks just because I have Taysom Hill fears. But when Taysom Hill's out, I always give Derek Carr a real look because he's always under 6,000 and he can throw a couple bombs.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm with you.
Bengals Panthers. This right here already screams like sneaky game. We saw last night the Bengals offense look great. Literally didn't punt once. They got all their weapons back now that T. Higgins is back. And now I guess Andy Dalton has got the Panthers as like a top 10 offense in the NFL now. Are you feeling any, like, is this game going to get chalky? Because there's some really affordable pieces in this game.
That's the one thing that immediately came to my mind when you just brought this game up. It's like, man, I think people are going to come here at a really high rate. I think this is, this is truly a first look for me. So I haven't looked deep into the slate, but this appears to be a very appealing game for fantasy purposes. You saw what the Panthers were able to do with Dalton, go from like worst offense, dog shit offense with Bryce Young to Andy Dalton, who they basically was unstoppable last week. Who'd they play? I'm drawing a blank on that. I was trying to see where they at.
I don't know. They beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, the Raiders.
The Raiders.
So, they went in there and unstoppable offense. The one piece of news, I think Adam Thielen is questionable. We don't have him listening here, so that's one thing to take note of.
Deontay Johnson, we can already tell you right now, going to be wild chalk this week.
Yeah,
5,600, barely got the price jump. Got all those targets, and you're looking at Thielen, their number 2 wide receiver, being out. His usage is only going to go up. They're at home. They're probably going to be in a script where they're passing.
Yeah,
Deontay's going to be wild popular this week, and it makes sense. It does, but I'm just telling you, if you think you're getting sneaky playing Deontay, let me go ahead and ruin your day. You're not.
The Bengals guys are going to get a lot of ownership too. I mean, Zach Moss, they're using him a ton. Jamar Chase coming off the 2 touchdown game. T. Higgins back in the mix. We saw Yoshi continue on, had a touchdown. They're all still cheap. I mean, 77 for Chase, 59 for Higgins, 4-1 for Yoshi, under 6K for Moss, Burrow 6-6. Like, all those guys are going to get substantial ownership. The fact that people saw on prime time that Yoshi is still going to be involved with T. Higgins in there, Andy's still cheap, Andy's still scoring touchdowns. People are going to be all over this game. And, you talk about steam a lot. This is something I think that could get steamed up all throughout the week.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow stacks with a Deontay Johnson run back is going to be real popular build this week. Would just be my guess.
Very.
Moving on to the Rams, who have a special place in my heart because I was like, hey, the Rams are completely depleted and the 49ers are completely depleted. Maybe all their scrubs can do well. And they did. And that led to a good week of DFS for me. I wish Matthew Stafford wasn't so efficient on that last drive and I could have got some overtime, but what the fuck ever. So let's start here. Pretty low total in this game, only 40 points. I'm still just not sold on the Bears. I think DeAndre Swift just blows donkey dick. I think Caleb Williams is going to be okay, but I just don't think he's really fantasy viable yet. And I really liked Rome Odunze last week with Keenan Allen out just because he's a big talent. But man, other than Rome, I'm struggling to get there with any of these Bears. And then with the Rams, I guess that Jordan Whittington, that was my biggest whiff of the week. I was guessing he would be the one that would have the good week for him. Hardly played at all. Terrible play. Demarcus Robinson's probably the guy there, and Colby Parkinson if you're going to play him. But let me ask you this: do you really want to play any of those? Any of these guys?
Yeah, it's definitely not the most appealing spot. I mean, people had high hopes for the Bears offense this season with Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen. And it appears that they're just not ready to be a good offense at this point. It's just a tough team. And a team, honestly, for the rest of the season, it's I think we need some sort of injury, some sort of injury to pop up and get it like a cheap guy before we really want to be in on the Bears offense. So for me, it's an easy spot to avoid. On the Rams side, though, Kieran Williams, I mean, the workload is insane, and it's going to continue to be insane probably all season long until he gets hurt, which I'm sure will happen at some point. But 24 carries, 2 catches, so 26 touches. Tough to come by in the NFL nowadays. So basically any sort of matchup, you have to consider this guy if he's going to get that sort of workload. We have what should be a pretty competitive game. So I think he's definitely the standout play here. DeMarcus Robinson, sure. Parkinson, sure. But really this one is Kieran Williams.
And Kieran Williams has a nose for the end zone, which you cannot, him and Kamara, those guys seem to know how to find the end zone when they're close, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
Let's see. Making sure I'm not skipping anything in the chat here. Is it time to hop on the here we got one from Go Collect. Is it time to hop on the Caleb Williams bandwagon? I will tell you, I will play Caleb Williams in some DFS lineups this year. I just don't know if it's going to be this week. Is there any chance he could be in your 150?
Most likely not, but I guess what we saw from Jaden Daniels, I mean, last night, I'm all about taking L's. I'll take a massive L on the Jaden Daniels thing. We were just on the show yesterday saying about how the guy couldn't complete a pass. I mean, he was phenomenal last night. I mean, just took it to the Bengals. Now, is it part of the reason the Bengals defense is that bad? Yeah, that could be the case. But man, Jaden Daniels looked good. So I guess maybe it's hard to fully write off Caleb Williams as being a good or relevant for fantasy because Jaden Daniels turned it on with no sign of life, essentially. Could Williams do it? Potentially, but probably not going to be for me this week.
Yeah, I would say this. If Keenan Allen's going to be out again, it makes Caleb Williams a lot more appealing to me because then I can just skinny stack him with either Rome or DJ Moore. And then you still got the Kieran Williams run back, which, isn't the worst. But I will say both these teams don't exactly play very fast. So they're going to have to get it done with efficiency because you're not going to get 65 plays out of these teams. So you just got to know that coming in.
Yeah, with you.
All right, Vikings and Packers. What do we got here? 43.5 point total. The Vikings, greatest team in NFL history, apparently. It's crazy that they're underdogs. I'm thinking Jordan Love's probably going to be back this week. They were pushing to try to get him back last week. Are you feeling the same thing?
Same, yeah. I mean, it sounded like he was relatively close last week, and I think this is, probably the spot where he comes back, which should be, I think, good for fantasy purposes because it brings all those Packers wide receivers back into the equation for us. It's hard to play them with Willis back there, but Reed, Watson, Dobbs probably all get into the mix this week as viable options. You have 2 running backs in this game, Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, who get a lot of work. Jones coming off the big game. Vikings offense just absolutely rolling right now. This could be an appealing game fantasy-wise. And in terms of ownership, I mean, outside of Justin Jefferson, I imagine you really don't need to really worry about anything else ownership-wise. Jefferson probably gets a good chunk, but everything else probably remains in check. So I think this, assuming Love gets back in, I would definitely want Love in. I think this could be a game to target overall.
I would say the one concern I would have with Love is the fact that they're trying to rush him back so quickly. Yeah. You do got to worry about a production slip, right? He could be in there and just be 80% of himself. And let's face it, 80% of Jordan Love is just like an average NFL quarterback. So it's just something to consider. Aaron Jones revenge game that Ross K pointed out. You buying that? You buy the old revenge narrative?
Maybe. I mean, I'm more looking at the workload and the price. He's getting a ton of work and the price is nice. I guess you can add that in as a cherry on top if you want the revenge spot.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson, the 8,700. I'm always reluctant to play him because he's being very solid every week. He's just not getting that top end. You need a lot of volume to pay off that price tag, and he's not getting it. He's very efficient with the targets he gets, but man, he needs 14 targets usually to pay that off.
That's why you need the back and forth game. They've been involved. They've been blowing teams out. I mean, last week was a blowout, and week 1, whoever they blew out, the offense was shut down after the first half because they just didn't need it anymore. I mean, if we get the back and forth game, which obviously is way more likely with Love in there, I think this could potentially be the spot. And now the price is up a little bit, so I like it. But yeah, if Love is out, not as interested.
All right, we got to get to this next one because I don't think this is a hot take, but the Jaguars fucking suck. And I'm typically never a Texans kind of guy at DFS. Not because I don't think they have a good offense. I mean, obviously they have a great offense these past 2 seasons, but it's just so hard to match up CJ Stroud. He's always over $7,000. He offers no rushing upside. And then even if you manage to get a 3-touchdown, 300-yard game out of him, did you pick the correct wide receiver to stack him with? It can be very frustrating to try to nail down the Texans. So by and large, I just kind of avoid them, right? But it's going to be hard to avoid a 26-point team total from the Texans playing against the Jaguars, who do just enough on offense to keep the games around, but do nothing on defense and are going to give up 28 points definitely this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you just look at the Jaguars. I mean, a short week, embarrassing loss. I mean, they just got their asses kicked. It was never competitive. Trevor Lawrence, like, how much longer can they go on with the Trevor Lawrence thing? I mean, the guy just sucks. What do you like the term donkey dick or donkey balls?
That guy, he sucks a lot of donkey dick.
A lot of donkey dick for sure. And just like, how much longer can they continue to roll his ass out? I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll grind it out the rest of the season.
Have you ever seen that girl that looks just like Trevor Lawrence?
Yes.
Yeah, they need to bring her out. Give her a chance.
Her in. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Can't be any worse than him.
It is crazy because you look at this offense and I guess hypothetically you got the pieces. You know, ETN, Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas actually looks good. I'd say he's the one shining spot of this offense if they get Evan Ingram back. But, man, it just has not worked out well. But I guess the nice thing is if you are stacking Texans, which I've done all season, and it has not been very successful, I'm definitely going to be on them in this spot at home, projected to score 26, like you said. 3 different wide receivers. Obviously, Tank Dell is officially questionable. I imagine they said it's just dealing with soreness after a shot to the ribs. I imagine
I would love for Tank Dell to be out because that would make it so much easier to try to pinpoint.
Offense, yeah.
Goodness gracious. I would just go all in on CJ Stroud stacks. My dude Gang Green says it's going to be a Thomas Nuke week. I assume he's talking about Brian Thomas Jr., which I don't hate because he's like secretly pretty good. I mean, the Jets have been so bad. He hasn't shown it, but like he's not playing that bad at all. He's just on a really shitty team.
Yeah, crappy team. 9 targets yesterday. Like, yeah, he's probably going to be their number one. And I think Gabe Davis wasn't he a little dinged up? I don't know for sure. I thought he went out.
Don't forget that whole middle ground where he's just fucking terrible at football.
That's true. Yeah, that's relatively important as well. Too very very good point.
Little note I wrote down a couple years ago, and I've kept it close to my heart.
Yeah, so the team. It's going to be it's a Texans week. Very interesting. We got to see what's going on with Mixon. I guess.
I feel like Nick back, he could be really interesting, right? Because I gotta assume CJ Stroud's going to be popular this week. So maybe the way to get some of that Texans without eating all the CJ Stroud chalk is just play Mixon. Hope he pilfers a touchdown or 2 from the passing game. Has a big game himself. They get in a favorable script, and he rushes for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And CJ Stroud has an okay game, but you really need a Mixon, and then you get another quarterback that goes off. Maybe that's the way to play it, because I would love Joe Mixon if he's back.
With you. I mean, 100% with you. Like, I want, in a lot of teams, I want some kind of exposure to the Texans, whether it's CJ Stroud stacks, Mixon, running back play, one of the wide receivers. Like, I want Texans in my lineups this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough week to completely fade the Texans. Even with all the surprise upsets there's been, I'm not saying the Jags can't win this game. I'm just saying I know the Texans are going to score. That's what I do know. They're not going to score 7 points 2 weeks in a row.
With you.
All right. Steelers, Colts. Man, this game just reeks of a fucking slog. A couple teams that like to play pretty slow, that like to, that don't have very accurate quarterbacks and who like to run the ball. That's a recipe for like a 21-20 type game, which is basically what Vegas is telling us this game's going to be. Kind of surprised the Steelers are favored on the road, just at first thought. But, I guess Vegas loves the Steelers. I got to tell you right off the bat, with it being slow in nature, I tend to only target 2 types of people in games that are going to be slow in nature. That's running backs and like possession receivers. Is there anybody that's jumping off the page for you in this game? Because I'm not finding any besides maybe Jonathan Taylor. And I don't know that I want to pay $7,700 for Jonathan Taylor.
It's probably it, Jonathan Taylor. I don't think I've clicked a Steelers name all season, and it's worked out phenomenally well. So I'm going to continue on that path.
There's good football teams, and then there's good fantasy football teams. The Steelers are a good football team. They're not a good fantasy football team.
Yeah. I mean, when you don't click someone's name ever and they don't hurt you, just continue on. And that's been the case for the Steelers for me this season. I just don't see anything. It's Jonathan Taylor or probably nothing. I mean, we're not seeing the Anthony Richard upside. Was there week one. Nothing since. If they're playing so slow, like you said, it kills like the Michael Pittman stuff. So yeah, it's going to be probably Jonathan Taylor, and I honestly don't know how much of him I'll get, to be honest. Kind of like you said.
Ross K is saying Jaylen Warren unlikely to play for Pitt. I did see he was banged up. I didn't know he was already doubtful to play, but if he does, my God, I don't think I've ever played Najee Harris in my life. I'll even have to consider it. Now, if he gets to be 25% chalk, I'd rather just die than play chalky Najee Harris.
Yeah, there might be validity to that. The MRI talk. So yeah, it could that could be legit. Yeah, if I have to play Najee Harris this week, fuck man, it's gonna be that's a click the name and plug your nose situation.
Yeah, if I gotta play Najee Harris this week, maybe I should just set the week out and go give $2,000 to Goodwill. At least do some good with my money instead of giving it to DraftKings.
Yes. Oh man, yeah, that's not a fun click.
All right, enough of that fucking game. Yeah. Another just slogfest game. Broncos and Jets. Broncos only with a 15 or 16 point implied team total. God, that's bad. But man, they looked pretty good this last weekend. This is what every time we think we have stuff figured out in the NFL, the most slapdick teams all of a sudden become like the 2001 Rams all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. True.
Bo Nix at 5,100. The way he runs, he doesn't have to do much to get there. Like one rushing touchdown, 200 passing yards, and another passing touchdown. He probably delivers. If he gets you 20 points at 5,100 and you could just find the one fucking guy he's going to throw the touchdown to, he's probably not the worst play ever for a skinny stack. I just don't know that I love it at the Jets.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. The team total is, what do we have it like sub 16, which is a very, very low number. And then the Jets are favored by 7 here, projected to score right around 23 points. It's been, man, like Aaron Rodgers looked great. That's one thing I can definitely say in that last game. He looked phenomenal. But he's kind of spreading it around a lot. And it makes it tough for like Garrett Wilson, who needs volume. Like you need volume on a guy like Garrett Wilson. But the fact he's throwing a lot to Lazard, he's throwing a lot to Mike Williams. Not a lot to Mike Williams, but he tried to get him more involved. Mm-hmm. Conklin more involved last game. And then 2 running backs they're using, Breece Hall and this Allen, who looks pretty damn good. So it's a tough offense, really, to pinpoint where it's going to go. I imagine Breece Hall probably ends up being relatively popular on the slate at home, favored by 7,800, pass catching upside, goal line work. But that Allen kid's working his way in there. I mean, 11 carries for him last week. So I don't think Breece Hall is the absolute slam dunk that a lot of people are viewing him as. And then again, my concern with Garrett Wilson is they're just spreading it out. Aaron Rodgers is going to get all these guys involved. Aaron Rodgers does look good, but with Garrett Wilson, we need more volume. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough team.
I will say this: Rodgers at 6,200. We're gonna go with Tambo's best buy pricing here. When he gets over 6,000, like he just doesn't throw the ball enough to really justify it with no running upside. And I will say Garrett Wilson going down to 6,900. First of all, nice.
Yeah.
And second of all, that's kind of getting to be like, oh wow, Garrett Wilson's in the 6,000s now. Yeah. That's kind of where that's not where you usually see elite wide receivers at. Yeah. So. That I think that can make him more appealing to the people that are just clicking on price tags and see, oh shit, Garrett Wilson only 6,900, got to play that.
Yeah.
And I think there's more of those people out there than people realize.
Yeah.
If I made you play a Bronco, who would you play?
Oh fuck, man, that's the toughest question so far on the show.
my boy Lil Jordan Humphrey. Don't play him. Don't play him.
I can tell you right now, I don't think I'm playing any for sure. If I had to, I guess I'd just maybe take a chance on Javonte Williams. I don't know. It's tough. That's a very tough question. Very tough.
Austin says he's out on Wilson because of Sertan Island.
Yeah, I just don't believe in any of that stuff. I get it if people want to play that, but I just don't ever really factor that stuff in.
I typically don't either because Garrett Wilson doesn't line up in the same spot every time. He plays out of the slot. He plays the X, the Y. He plays it also. Unless they're specifically going to say he's going to follow him around all game, I'm not really buying that either. He might cover him a third of the time, but don't throw to him the other 2/3 of the time.
Yes.
All right. Eagles, but Bucs on paper should be just a good football game. I'll tell you, the Eagles, they're moving the ball, but they have a magic ability to just not fucking score.
Yeah.
Saquon, goodness gracious, I was watching that game and I was like, this guy's going to have 4 points this week. And then all of a sudden you look up, he's got 30. It's like, how does he do this? He still just has that ability to go ham. Jalen Hurts, I think he's regressing. He's just, at least I know at fantasy he's regressing.
Yeah.
And then with Devontae being out, I think that hurts more than people realize. Even if they do get AJ Brown back, I think this offense needs both of those guys to be that, top 10 type offense they need to be. And let's just give a quick shout out to Dallas Goedert going ham for me last week with like 800 catches. Appreciate it, big guy.
Man. Goddard's legit. And so on the Eagles side, we're gonna have to see, I guess, with Smith and Brown. I mean, if one's in and one's out, the guy that's in is going to be a great play. If somehow they're both out, Barkley, Goddard, phenomenal plays, and then you're going to play some slapdick third wide receiver essentially at minimum price, and then hope he gets a few catches. So need to really see. I do agree with the Hurt stuff. Like, he's regressed a little bit, but man, with scoring down so much at this quarterback position, it's like I still have to keep him around. On the Bucs side, I mean, a very disappointing loss. Are they willing to bounce back? I mean, it's still my favorite part of the Bucs offense is going to be Godwin. I mean, he is just a great connection. You just get there in so many different game scripts. So very interested in him. And then Rachaad White has a cheap price tag, but just, man, he has not gotten it done this season. I mean, decent week one. It has not been good.
Bucky Irving is better than him.
Yeah.
If you just watch, you can just tell.
And the work's trending in his direction. So it just makes it tough to, I guess, really play either of those guys, to be honest with you. But the White price tag at 6, like last year, that's like a lock button play. This year with Irving in the mix, like you said, it's like it's still hard to go there. So, Godwin, Evans, fine, maybe a little bit of Otten. And then on the Eagle side, Barkley's just getting the job done. Like you said, doing nothing, and then boom, 30 spot. And then we got to see on those wide receivers.
Yeah, Nick's giving us the old Bucky, the coach talk. Yeah, Bucky's going to get more touches, which if I've ever learned, these coaches are so full of shit. Yeah. Like, people are going to take that and run with it. I'm going to take that and go the other way with it. One thought I have is like stacking Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. I just really hate that. I think Jalen Hurts is a guy you want to skinny stack with just one wide receiver, or maybe I shouldn't say wide receiver. I should say one pass catcher. And I just watching their games at the price tag that Hurts and Barkley are at, it's just going to be really hard for them both to get there with how not efficient their offense is running this year. So that'd just be kind of my warning for people, because I know people like to go quarterback, running back in some of their stacks. I just don't think this is the team to do it with.
Yeah, I mean, the only scenario where I think it would make a little sense would be if both those wide receivers are out, and then you could really see Barkley getting a ton of dump offs in action. But more times than not, I'm with you for sure.
Yeah, if both the wide receivers are out, I guess I could get down with a Hurts, Barkley, Goddard like stack or something.
Yeah, just hope you capture all the offense and they score a bunch of points.
Yeah, and Dallas Goedert gets me 28 more catches. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts.
I was watching
score a touchdown, did he?
He didn't. I think he had. What do you have? I think he either had 12 catches for 12 catches
for 170.
Yeah, and then he got the 3-point bonus. I just knew he had 30 points. It's just like when I was watching the game, I was like, through 2 drives, like he's already had 4 catches. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? They're throwing the ball to Dallas Goedert. Yeah. And I had him in my Brock Purdy lineups with Juwan Jennings and stuff, and I only had him in my player pool because I had Jalen Hurts as my other stacks, and he got mixed into some Purdy lineups. So sometimes you luck sack into some good lineups.
Yeah, that's what it takes.
All right, getting to the afternoon games. This is by far going to be the chalkiest game on the slate. And after watching the Commanders last night, people are going to believe that they are now a great offense. They're playing the Cardinals, who are not afraid to be in a shootout, who are at home in the Dome, have shown to be a pretty efficient offense so far this year. Even when they didn't score a lot of points last week, they were still moving the ball very well up and down the field. I can just tell you right now, Jaden Daniels is going to be popular. Kyler Murray is going to be popular. I don't know which receiver for the Commanders is going to be popular, but I know Marvin Harrison will continue to be popular. Trey McBride will continue to be popular. And I think both these running backs, specifically Brian Robinson and Connors, are going to get some love. Where would you start in this game if you were going to start picking some people you like?
Yeah, it's a very well-rounded game from a fantasy perspective in terms of the number of options here. I mean, the one thing to point out for sure right out of the gate is, yes, the Commanders got the win last night against the Bengals, but their defense was not very good. Like the Bengals scored, I think, every possession of the second half and still lost that game. So this has shootout potential all over the place for sure. Both quarterbacks are nice because it's the running stuff. They can run, and now apparently Jaden Daniels can pass as well, which before yesterday, no one thought he could pass the football, and he got the job done. Eckler left with a concussion and never came back. So I think there's a pretty legitimate chance that he doesn't play. And we're looking at Brian Robinson in a much bigger role. So I think he's very strong. Terry McLaurin did nothing until last night, caught the bomb, 5,800. He's going to get a ton of ownership. Zach Ertz continues to just be wide open all over the field. And people continue to try to write him off, but he just gets the job done. He's just open. He's always open out there. On the Cardinals side, Kyler, obviously, Connor, Marvin Harrison finally looks good. Trey McBride, another guy, I think it was a concussion.
Trey McBride, go collect saying he's in concussion protocol. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. So it was late in the game. He left, never came back. So Elijah Higgins, 3,100 would be the next guy in line. So this game is going to, like you said, if it's not the most popular, it's the second most popular. It's going to be up there in terms of ownership all over. I mean, Marvin Harrison with 11 targets last week, finding the end zone. It's going to be both quarterbacks, both running backs, both wide receiver ones, and, whichever tight ends in the game for the Cardinals, and then Zach Ertz. So, I mean, it's very clear, and they all probably get a big chunk of ownership this week.
Yeah, this is a game you can easily get 4 or 5 guys in if you want to go crazy and stack this one without really busting your budget. You could play 4 or 5 guys from this game and still go get a stud from another game. I think the options are so affordable in this game.
Yeah.
But what you always got to ask yourself is, like, if this is going to be the most popular game of the week, do you want to be underweight or overweight on it? And I think you want to be cognizant of which you're choosing and make a point to do that.
Agree.
All right. Patriots and 49ers, the Patriots with a pathetic 14-point implied total against the 49ers, who, even with all the injuries last week, still looked awesome on offense. I watched that entire game, every play. Yeah. They looked great. Of course, Jawan Jennings played prime time, like prime Randy Moss. It was crazy. Jordan Mason continued to be very efficient but he still does very little in the pass game. But if I've known anything about the NFL this year, the Patriots are going to keep this game competitive, and it's going to go down to the very end, and hell, they might win because it's something like teams that are like 6-point dogs or more, something like 15-2 against the spread, and are and have won like 5 of those just straight up. It's crazy how much these big underdogs are being competitive in games this year. Yeah, it
is wild.
So, anything you're seeing here? Can we play any Patriot? I mean, Ramondre, I think, always has to be on the table.
Yeah, 6,200. You can keep in the player pool. I mean, not a guy I'm overly excited to play, but I wouldn't mind getting some exposure to him. With the 49ers, we kind of need to see, who's in, who's out. The Kittle stuff's probably pretty big. I think Debo is definitely going to be out. It said 3 weeks or something. But the Kittle stuff's, the Kittle stuff's kind of big. The one thing that definitely stands out, last week it was Jennings who went off. Is it Ayuk this week? Are people going to want to be on Jennings?
I'm excited to go back to Ayuk. I hope people are mad at him and they're like, fuck that guy. I'm going right back to that well.
Yeah, that's my initial lean. Definitely my favorite part of this game. We'll see how it all plays out. The Kittle news is pretty important throughout the week. But another nice thing, though, is Jordan Mason, didn't have the big fantasy game, but still got all the work. And that's what we want. And he's still under 7K, so he's a good play, too, regardless.
I still think Brock Purdy for all time is just always a very stackable quarterback. He's just always somebody that I feel like is always just a little underpriced. And, my Brock Purdy lineups did me just fine last week. He wasn't the highest scoring quarterback on the slate, not by a mile, but he was good enough for his price tag, and he was very stackable with Jawan Jennings. And when you factor those things in, all of a sudden he became a great play last week.
Yeah. Like it. Good call. I definitely play. I mean, the price is, what is he? He's 6,100. That's just way too cheap.
for a guy that runs such an efficient offense that seems to score a minimum of 24 points every week. Yeah. So Chiefs and Chargers, goodness gracious. I'm kind of like Tambo. I'm a never Mahomes guy, but 7,100 seems awfully cheap. Am I losing my mind? Is that not awfully cheap for the best quarterback in the NFL with a 24-point team total?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not team never Mahomes, and working closely with our boy Tambo. Yeah, you hear it a lot on our shows, but I am not on team never Mahomes. His connection with Rashee Rice is phenomenal. I mean, I think Rashee Rice so damn good. I want to play him every week. Xavier Worthy obviously has the big touchdown upside. Obviously, the biggest concern with this offense is Travis Kelce looks like so dusty. He can't move out there. By the end of the season, I'm sure he's going to look great, but right now it has not been awesome. So, for me, the part of the reason I like the Mahomes stuff so much is I know who I want to pair him with, and it's just a couple guys, and I can get a lot of exposure to it. So that's one thing that definitely stands out. The price tag on Mahomes definitely stands out at 71, and for some reason, like, they refuse to bump up Rashee Rice. 7,300. Like, he should be an $8,000 wide receiver like every single week. 73, I just think, is an extreme discount and value. So really like
a little Mahomes Rice skinny stack might just be enough. I don't even know that you need a run back. Just be happy you're getting those two.
Exactly.
Like, such a great connection at such a cheap price. And then you can go, go build two secondary correlations in some other lineups if you want. If you still want your lineup to have some correlation, you don't have to have 3 or 4 guys from the same game. Just skinny stack Mahomes and Rice and get the fuck out of this game, because I got to tell you, I think the Chargers are fraudulent. I know they're fraudulent in DFS. They're just not a good fantasy team. I know Dobbins is playing great this year. He's getting more of the running back share, but if I know anything about that guy, you better get it while it's good, because he ain't going to keep this up all year. He will break down.
Yeah, it is not a fun team for DFS. Like, whether they're good or not as an actual football team, debatable, but for DFS, they fucking suck, and that's all we care about for now.
Hey, I'm not going to listen to you slander Simi Fahoku, okay? I will not stand for this.
Give me Mahomes and Rice, though, for sure, man. The Rice price is not right.
You sound like Tambo now
Tambo will be proud
with your rhymes. All right. Speaking of absolute slapdicks, Deshaun Watson and the Browns playing against the Raiders. Good. That was another one I whiffed on last week. I was like, Zamir White's going to get his this week. Yeah. They're finally going to get that little loser slap dick going. I think he had 3 points. Another great call by me. I think he was in one of my lineups that scored 200 points. Imagine scoring 200 points and having a 3-point guy in there. What a dickhead.
Yeah. I'm with you.
All right. The Browns, Amari Cooper is still getting his, even with broken ass Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. But man, the Browns are just a team I look at every week and I'm just like, no, thanks. They're like the Steelers. They're like the Chargers. I just don't even give them a second look. They're just auto teams I mark off. And maybe that's not the best strategy, but like, it's what I've been doing. And, I've learned a lot about just stay away from shitty DFS teams, shitty DFS, NFL DFS teams, and you're going to have a much better experience on Sundays.
Yep. I agree. And it's Amari Cooper. 6,300 seems too cheap. Again, 12 targets, and Deshaun Watson sucks, but 12 targets to Amari, I think he's talented enough to reel in receptions or targets from shitty quarterbacks. So good with him. Maybe Devontae Adams at 74. This offense is not fun to get exposure to, and then maybe Brock Bowers at 56, and man, I just don't want much of this game though at all. I was with you on the Zamir White thing. I thought that was the spot at home against the Panthers, and turns out it wasn't the spot.
Yeah, Devontae Adams, another guy on my shit list. A guy I never play, but I was like, you know what? The Raiders are going to go off this week. I want to have him in some lineups, and that lineup that finished second place in the listener league there had Devontae Adams in it. And if the guy just has a normal game, I could have won. But no, he had like 7 points. What a dickhead.
Yeah.
It's no one's fault but mine for playing fucking Raiders. Okay. You play Raiders, you get what you deserve.
Exactly. Yep. Keep the expectations low. Just keep the expectations really low when you play teams like that.
Closing thoughts on this slate. I'll go ahead and lead it off. It just seems like another week of I don't think there's going to be a ton of big shootout games. Seems like there's going to be a lot of like meddling, like, 21-17 type games and stuff like that. I see about 3 games that I'm wanting to target. But once again, I think it just based on these numbers I'm seeing and the matchups I'm seeing, I think it's going to be another, low scoring week. That would be my guess. You got any big takeaways that you're thinking heading into this week while we let our juices flow?
I think I'm with you. I mean, it looks like another week where people are going to say, oh, man, where's the scoring in the NFL? And part of the problem with this is they're doing a good job of getting some of the better offenses in the primetime games. So, like, the options are actually this week, it's not as prevalent as the previous weeks. But I think a couple games that people are definitely going to go to, we talked about it, like the Commanders, Cardinals, going to be big-time exposure there. People are going to want that one. As the week goes on, I think people are going to be more and more interested in the Bengals Panthers, like for sure. I mean, the Bengals offense looked really, really good. They're all still cheap. And then you look at the Eagles Bucs, it could get some as well, but another week with some very low totals. So don't expect a scoring barrage this week.
All right, guys, remember, we're pushing to get to 10,000 people. You go look right now, and you see if that little thing below your screen says subscribe, which means you're not subscribed. Or if it says subscribe, you are subscribed. Just make sure that's clicked, all right? Tell a friend. We're trying to get to 10,000. It's important. We're doing a push. You can see we made a great graphic. The graphic alone should get you to do it. Don't forget to go hop in the Listener League. The editor has already put it in the chat. It'll be in the description of this video. Tambo will be hell, he's already tweeted out. I have the fucking tweet up right here on my screen right now, right? So go get in it. Let's get that thing filled up. And hell, maybe that magic man can get up to 3,000 next week. I don't know. But in the meantime, Tambo is still our sworn enemy. He is a Canadian international, and I don't want to know that guy until after America gets on smashing the shit out of the internationals. I will be doing a golf show. I'll get it out to you tomorrow. Not doing a stream. I'm just going to put out one for the President's Cup to help you guys. So for all of you that are still into golf, do that. Hoop, do you have any parting thoughts before I give my outro?
It was a lot of fun. First time kind of pairing up here on this first look show. I think we set people on the right path for the week, and obviously tune into the rest of our shows and content throughout the week here. And looking forward to getting those SHIPIT Nation logos back up to the top where they've spent a lot of time.
Amen to that. Hoop's like that best friend you have that like lives across the country that you don't get to see enough. And then whenever you finally get to see him, it's like greatest time of your life. That's what this stream has been. Glad I got to do it. It was awesome. Guys, remember this week, rule number 1 before we get out of here, which is always enjoy the content this week. Enjoy the process. Enjoy all the thoughts you're going to have about building it. Enjoy the sweat. Enjoy the tilt. Enjoy your community and enjoy the results. And just be thankful that you have NFL DFS. Never take it for granted. Don't take anything for granted. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you next Tuesday for the First Look show. In the meantime, enjoy this outro.